Sebble Kebble here. Mantino. Hanging out.
BC special presentation. This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is not a news broadcast or a news documentary.
Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries, the story of a cunning and deadly fugitive whose bombs have killed one person and injured 21. In a story of lost love, a man who vanished, leaving a trail of wives and children across the country. In 1982, George Marsh died in a Kansas City nursing home. Someone watching tonight may be heir to his secret fortune. After our last broadcast, information called in by viewers helped put 2 suspected murders behind bars. Now, in the next hour, we will investigate 4 new mysteries, all true, and all needing one last piece of information before they can be solved. The events of each story have been recreated in precise detail in the hope that someone watching tonight may have that clue. Join me. You may be able to help solve a mystery. On the morning of February 20th, 1987, in Salt Lake City, an unknown man planted a homemade bomb in the parking lot behind a computer store. He disguised the bomb as a prankster's device to blow out car tires. That morning, Gary Wright, the owner of the computer store, arrived at work.
I didn't arrive till the office until around 10:30. Pulled into the back parking lot and noticed a couple of 2x4s nailed together with nails sticking out. Thought that I better move it just so no one would run over it. Got out of my car, went around, and as I picked up the device, I didn't know it at the time, but it just exploded.
Roxanne, I just had a report of a bomb explosion with an injury at 270 East and 9th South. Card 123, 134, respond to the area. Secure the area.
23 is responding. 190, can you copy description of a suspect, please?
Go ahead.
Male white. He has a gray hooded sweatshirt on, pulled over his head with the tied down with sunglasses on. Blondish, sandy colored hair.
Over the past 9 years, this one man has built 12 bombs and planted them at universities, airlines, and computer-related businesses. So far, 1 person has been killed and 21 others injured by his devices. Over the 9 years, this man has only been seen once. A huge task force of FBI, local police, and federal law enforcement agencies are desperately trying to find him. They all agree on one thing: unless he's caught, he will strike again. It is only a matter of time.
The bomber likes to disguise his bombs, and he will do this by making them fit the environment where he intends to place them. In some cases, he has mailed a book to the mail and had the bomb in the book. In other cases, he has placed devices outside of businesses where they look like they would fit into that area. He does spend a considerable amount of time, I think, making sure that when he places them, that they will probably draw some curiosity, and therefore he will be able to get to the victims that he's after.
May 15th, 1985, the University of California at Berkeley. The bomber slipped unnoticed into a campus computer lab and left behind a device disguised as a binder attached to a checkbox. This bomb sat in the lab for 3 days before it attracted the attention of an Air Force captain, John Hauser. Hauser was a graduate student who had been accepted for training by NASA. His career as an astronaut came to a tragic end that day.
I believed that it might be somebody's launch or project or something like that. So then I thought, okay, I'll just open the box and see what's in it. Right away, you know, it was like a bzz, boom, that happened instantly, you know, like a bzz, that. When the bomb went off, it just blew my fingers right off, and my academy ring was on this finger. It blew it off into the wall. Blood just started spurting out because both major arteries in my arm had been severed. You know, I could tell that this was really a life-threatening situation. I think if it had been turned the other way and I'd opened it into me, and the blast that went into my arm had gone into my chest, I wouldn't be here today.
12 bombs in 9 years. Their locations and the cities from which they originated may offer clues to the bomber's identity. Between 1978 and 1980, 4 bombs were either placed in the Chicago area or mailed from there. One of them was a package mailed to Washington, D.C. It exploded in the hold of an American Airlines passenger jet while in flight. Another was mailed to the president of United Airlines in a hollowed-out book. In 1981, the bomber may have moved to Utah. The next 2 bombs originated in Salt Lake City and Provo. In 1982, he placed a device disguised as a student's physics project at the University of California at Berkeley. In 1985, he planted 4 bombs. One he mailed from Oakland to the Boeing Company in Seattle. He left another bomb at the University of California at Berkeley. In November, he mailed a bomb from Salt Lake City to the University of Michigan. Finally, in December, the bomber killed his first victim. Hugh Scruton, the young owner of a Sacramento computer store, died in a violent explosion in the parking lot behind his building. The bomber planted the device hidden in a brown paper bag at 10:30 a.m. At noon, Hugh Scruton went out for lunch.
Hugh had an appointment that day, so rather than eat lunch in one of the places in our shopping center here, he went out the back door to his car. I was in the back working on some repairs, and all he said was, well, I'll be back in a while. See ya.
Okay. See ya. Bye.
I remember it just being everything happening so slowly. It's like time was slowing down, and it was like a nightmare. I heard Hugh scream out, and right away I was to the back door, and when I opened it, he was standing looking at me. He was missing a hand, and the force of the explosion had blown a hole in his chest, and he was looking at me with this incredibly puzzled look on his face, like, what the hell happened?
Despite frantic attempts by paramedics to save him, Hugh Scruton died almost immediately. The police have concluded that in all the recent attacks, the bomber was targeting an institution rather than a specific individual. But they still don't know his exact motive.
We know his motivation is to maim and kill, but what his reasons are, we're not sure. He's not leaving enough clues behind. I think he's trying to make a statement, but over the 9 years, it's still open to just giant speculation as to what his grudge is, whether it's imaginary or if it's real.
The bomber builds his cleverly disguised devices from simple hardware store items. Batteries, string, glue, fishing line, metal pipes, ordinary match heads are all ingeniously constructed into a lethal killing device. The building of these bombs may provide clues to the suspect's identity. The electrical circuitry and switches appear to be homemade. Clearly, he has special abilities in soldering and metalwork. The bomber must have regular access to a drill press, soldering equipment, and possibly a wood router.
Part of his enjoyment or fantasy is actually building this bomb. There has to be some enjoyment in putting these things together. Because the bombs are more sophisticated and take more time to put together, obviously the fantasy is growing within him. I think he represents a greater danger to everybody now. Most of us agree that the only way he'll stop is when he either blows himself up or we catch him. But he did make one mistake in Salt Lake City. Up to that point, we were chasing a ghost. We didn't know what the guy looked like. Now we know, at least we're looking for a white male, adult.
In the Salt Lake City bombing, the suspect was clearly seen by witnesses for the first time. As he was placing his device, he looked up and made direct eye contact through a window with two store employees. He was calm and collected and had no reaction to being spotted. He simply finished his business and walked away.
There's an underlying game going on with the authorities. We will know by the construction of the device whether it's our bomber or not. There's no question about that. And he intends that. I mean, he could make them differently that we wouldn't know, but he doesn't. He intends for us to know, I'm your guy and I'm hitting you again. He's extremely dangerous. There's no question about that. And he's a coward. I think this program provides a great opportunity. He lives next door to somebody. He travels around. If someone will say, this is a very good suspect, we can find him.
This is a police composite of the bomber. He is 25 to 30 years old, Caucasian, 5 feet 10 inches tall, and weighs 165 pounds. He has reddish blonde hair, possibly sun-bleached, and the one time he was spotted, he had a mustache. The authorities believe he is extremely intelligent, with a high school and possibly college education.
The U.S. Postal Service is offering a $60,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the bomber. If you have any information, please contact your local office of the FBI.
In a moment, the story of John Lutter, a man on the run from the authorities and his many wives.
This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is not a news broadcast or a news documentary.
Last May, we presented the story of John Burns, who in 1970 murdered his mistress, Eleanor Farber, at her farmhouse in rural Michigan. During their investigation, the police discovered that John Burns' identity was a complete fiction. For 22 years, he had managed to live in a small Michigan town, leaving no traces of his past. On the program, we showed a police composite of what Burns might look like today. Just hours after the broadcast, viewers in Altoona, Pennsylvania identified him as this man, a local recluse using the name Stephen Vance. He was arrested without a struggle and told reporters he was relieved his years of hiding were over.
I got tired looking over my shoulder. 17 years.
The police have learned that this man's name is not John Burns or Stephen Vance. It is Wilford Cashman. 40 years ago, he had escaped from the Pennsylvania State Penitentiary while serving a 14-year sentence for assault and rape. Cashman, alias Vance, alias John Burns, claims that Eleanor Farber's shooting was an accident. Also on our last program, we told you about another missing fugitive, Robert Weeks. 2 of his long-term girlfriends had planned to break up with Weeks, but they both disappeared after one last dinner date. Back in 1968, Weeks' wife, Patricia, also vanished.
Whoever he's involved with now may end up in the same situation. I definitely think there's a pattern, and I definitely think it could happen again.
The day after the broadcast, Robert Weeks was captured. Viewers called television station KVOA in Tucson, Arizona.
I haven't told anybody this yet, but I watched that program. And I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, I watched it, but I didn't figure any of my friends would be watching.
Your involvement helped solve the mysteries of John Burns and Robert Weeks. Our next story is about another man who has disappeared. Here, he is not running from murder, he is running from love. On September 27, 1980, Jack and Caroline Lutter were married in Lake Tahoe. Jack was a flight engineer for United Airlines, and Caroline was working as a marine biologist. Theirs was a happy marriage until August 1986, when Jack disappeared. Pauline.
It was a terrible feeling. I felt very betrayed, extremely betrayed. And after loving him so deeply, you know, he told me that he had, throughout his whole life, been so dedicated to work and getting an education that he never had time for other women. Well, that was totally untrue. I found out that there was many, many, many women in his life.
Caroline discovered that some of those women were, in fact, not just girlfriends, but Jack's wives. For years, Jack Lutter has successfully created a life of bigamy and an intricate financial network that supported 6 condominiums, 6 houses, a 50-foot yacht, and at least 15 children. Now he's disappeared. Jack's wives all had one thing in common. They were all from male-dominated cultures where women seldom questioned their husbands' actions.
Yeah, he always said that he always hated people that get divorced because he doesn't believe in divorce. So
once Jack disappeared, his wives began calling each other. Teresa and Caroline slowly pieced together the true story.
I think it was like a nightmare. It was really hard for me to look at the pictures, and it's like when I started to discover the whole story, it was
to one wife from a different location, making her think that he is one place when in fact he was
calling from a payphone inside a Cuban prison, where he had been held captive after being shipwrecked off the Cuban coast. Now he wanted to come home. Caroline knew he was lying, but to lure him back, she pretended to believe him. 2 days later, Jack called from the airport. Caroline had planned to alert the
sound. There was a part of me that still loved him very much. And yet there was another part of me that said, this is the end. I knew that this was the last time, probably, that I would ever see him again. And it was very sad.
Jack walked down the ramp and out of Caroline's life forever. Then he simply went to the haven of another one of his wives. For 6 months, he lived in El Paso with Teresa, and although she knew of his infidelities, she didn't turn him in either. Jack was fired by the airline, and finally, in March 1987, he disappeared.
What I don't know is where he is right now. That's the mystery.
A warrant for the arrest of Jack Lutter has been issued by a Seattle court. He is wanted for bigamy. Lutter is 6 feet 2 inches tall, 220 pounds, with light brown hair. He may have a mustache or a beard, and most likely will be in the company of a loving, unsuspecting woman. If you've seen this man, please call the King County Police Department in Seattle, Washington. Next, the story of a man serving 2 life sentences who claims he is wrongly imprisoned for murder.
I didn't kill Mary Lou or Fred. They were my best friends. It was a special time for us, and it turned to tragedy. No, I didn't kill him.
Unsolved Mysteries continues in a moment.
April 16th, 1978, Clearwater, Florida. 3 friends set out by boat for an impromptu party on Honeymoon Island, a mile off the coast. 2 of them, Freddie Doberly and Mary Lou Holmes, never came back. They were murdered. After a 30-day investigation, authorities charged a 3rd man on the boat that night, Glenn Consagra, with double homicide. Before his trial, Consagra pleaded guilty to 2nd-degree murder. Now, Walk around any cell block in any prison in the country, and you'll find the majority of all inmates claim they are innocent. What is unique about Consagra's case is that his claims are backed by a private investigator in Tampa and a special task force of the Public Defender's Office. They have found information and a witness who supports Consagra's claim of innocence. The prosecution has not been swayed. They contend the new evidence is bogus. Now, both sides have compelling arguments, making Consagra's case worth a second look in this next segment we call Final Appeal.
I have this feeling of cowardness. I should have come out, I should have looked around. Looking back on it, probably had I done that, I might have been killed myself.
For most of the night, he struggled from island to island until finally at dawn, he arrived at the same dock the group had left the night before.
Potential witness that they might come after me. That was a real concern of mine. And sometimes I think, well, maybe I should have just told the truth and let the chips fall where they may. But I called it the way I saw it at the time, and I'm not really sure if I did the right thing.
The case against him in 1978 was a strong circumstantial case. There were a well-connected chain of circumstances, and a jury, in my opinion, would have concluded that he was guilty.
I think the circumstantial evidence itself was very weak circumstantial evidence. I don't mean to imply that you cannot convict someone on circumstantial evidence. It can be done, but it must be strong enough to remove all reasonable doubt.
Has been repeatedly diagnosed as suffering from chronic schizophrenia. She repeatedly and continuously fabricated stories for no reason about things of importance and things of no importance. That was basically the type of person she was, and that was basically the type of behavior she repeatedly engaged in.
People who are emotionally disturbed aren't automatically disqualified as witnesses. They can see what they see. And if they can relate it in a rational, believable manner, why shouldn't they be believed the same as any other person?
Describe how Freddie was standing.
After confessing to Milwee, Donna was questioned repeatedly by the sheriff's department. She told 6 different conflicting versions of her story.
All of these versions contain inconsistencies, most notably that the murders took place on Honeymoon Island instead of the spoil bank. Finally, she recanted her entire testimony, claiming she never went to the island at all. Throughout the interrogation, however, she never backed off one important point, that Ted, a key witness implicating Consagra, was involved in the murders. There are other unanswered questions suggesting the murders may have been committed by more than one person.
Witnesses on the mainland said they heard just one barrage of shots. Why then would Consagra go to the unnecessary bother of using 2 different guns to commit a double homicide? Freddie and Mary Lou on the beach and pulled it 30 feet out into the water. Even more intriguing, why would Glenn Consagra, if he indeed committed the murders, sink his own boat, leaving himself at the crime scene with no other way back to shore than a dangerous swim?
I think what happened in the state's investigation is that they located what appeared to be a very logical suspect. They zeroed in on that suspect to the exclusion of all other possibilities.
Today, they've got egg on their face. Their own witness turns out to have duped them, to made fools of them. I'm in prison, he's out there scot-free. And I believe they're in...
Other witnesses who can substantiate Donna's story and help set him free.
Next, a fortune of $175,000 was left by a Kansas City man who lived virtually alone for over 60 years. Someone watching may be his heir.
also a man of mystery, a common laborer who had secretly amassed a small fortune of $175,000.
He definitely didn't seem like the type of individual that with $200,000 in the bank.
He talked about how he used to work hard, and that was it. But just to look at him, he didn't appear that he had that kind of money.
George Marsh died on October 21st, 1982, and is buried in a pauper's grave without even a headstone to mark his passing. His estate is still unclaimed. He left no will, few traces of his life. But authorities are convinced that at least one of his long-lost relatives is still alive. Perhaps the clues in this next story will help find the heirs of George Marsh. In 1917,
or been close to George in some way, and that's not the case.
George was a customer here at the store for probably 10 or 12 years.
And she said she lived in New Mexico. She was never traced, but perhaps she is the heir to George's fortune.
He told me one day when I asked that he had a son.
Marsh died. The nurses packing his belongings found several bank statements and deposit slips in a bedside drawer. It turned out he had 9 secret checking accounts in 4 different banks. This information was given to the county public administrator, whose job is to find Marsh's heirs.
This is all that remains of George R. Marsh, an envelope that contains the...
This photograph has been signed, your loving niece, Eleanor. This apparently is a picture of Catherine Zelenka. Her name has been written on the back of it. This may be the only existing photograph of George Marsh. The woman here could be his wife, Catherine, or his wife, Lula. Finally, the young boy in this picture may be George Marsh's long-lost son.
Whoever they are, one of the people in these pictures may be heir to $175,000. If none of his heirs comes forward, after 21 years, George Marsh's fortune will be dispersed to the state of Missouri, and his legacy and his memory will be gone forever. If you have any information regarding George Marsh's heirs, contact James Alward, Jackson County Public Administrator in Kansas City, Missouri. For every mystery, there is someone somewhere who knows the truth. Tonight, we have seen 4 mysteries. Perhaps that someone was watching. Perhaps it's you.
With David Letterman and Dave's guests, actress Glenn Close and football's Hart Donovan. And Friday night, catch the hot new series Private Eye, because playing by the rules is just for sissies. See for yourself on Private Eye Friday.